Hello and welcome to A Couple of Expats. I am Gabriella and this is John. We are a couple of expats from the US living in the Netherlands, and we are also a couple. It has been some time since we last did one of these, so I feel a little rusty. I already had to redo my intro, but we've been up to a lot since we last were on a podcast. So this one's going to be a little bit longer, but hopefully really interesting because we have been doing some traveling. So we're going to jump in and talk all about that. But to start, I think when we left off on the last podcast, we have been jumping around the Netherlands and we're heading to a new city for our first festival in the Netherlands. So let's recap that a little bit. John, you want to take it away? Tell them about
Groningen.
And
so we went to this town called Groningen, and it's in the very north of the Netherlands. It's like probably one of the last major cities in the Netherlands, like before you hit the North Sea and go into like Denmark and Germany. It was pretty cool. It's a very old town. There's a big university there, big like square where like it's been a fish market for centuries, since like the 1400s. So it's a pretty cool city. I probably wouldn't spend more than a weekend there though. There's not too much like going on in the city.
I think that's true though with most cities in the Netherlands, maybe besides Amsterdam itself, but most cities are pretty small. So to be honest, you can really do most of these places in a day. You don't need more than 2 days.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. They had a music festival there called the Hula Baloo Festival. It was a lot of Dutch people. One of the guys that was on Eurovision was there from the Netherlands. He unfortunately during that Eurovision he actually got kicked off because he was like, I think he like assaulted someone or something.
No, it was the most. So those of you who are from the US and maybe don't know what Eurovision is, it's a singing competition, which I think we talked about on one of our other podcasts, but it's a singing competition where almost every country within the EU is representative. So they have one artist who's like not super well known, but kind of up and coming. And they each have like their single song that they sing and perform. And then there's votes that go into place. And obviously the person with the most votes wins. So it's really exciting. They kind of claim it as like the Super Bowl of Europe. So everybody's really into it. Everybody's rooting for their own country. But yeah, unfortunately, Joost Klein, that was the one that we saw at the festival. And the guy who was in the most recent happening season appearance of Eurovision. But yeah, supposedly he assaulted a videographer or cameraman, or very unclear, a lot of controversy about it. He is actually projected to win, I believe, but was kicked out of the competition. So that was unfortunate, but honestly, him performing was a banger. I loved every second of it. It was so Dutch. Like it was honestly,
it's funny because
it was funny, but it was a vibe. I loved it.
It was funny because I think everybody saw him in Eurovision as like his major song was like Euro Papa, and he kind of comes off as like a pop artist that's kind of a little quirky, but like actually he's like a rapper and like a hard techno dance guy, like multi-genre like entertainer. So it was very interesting because like there was like families there and stuff with kids, and they had to go through all of that stuff just to get to the last song, which was the one that was like the hit song in Eurovision that like he's really known for in the Netherlands.
Euro Papa, Euro Papa. I can't sing the rest because it's in Dutch, but I know that part.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. The other big person there was the Chainsmokers. Jason Derulo was there, which his performance was actually like very like well choreographed. Chainsmokers was really cool. They had a really good set. And then right after they left that, music festival, they went straight to Munich, and then the next day they played in Berlin. So they had kind of a quick
turnaround.
weekend.
Yeah, that's insane. But the festival was cool. It was a 2-day festival. We only went to the first day.
Yeah.
But I think what surprised me the most, I'm not a festival goer. I really haven't been to festivals in the past, but it was so friendly, family friendly. There were so many parents with kids there. It was almost like an event and like a carnival all mixed in one, but it still had all of your adult festivities, plenty of alcohol. Obviously, like
it's also
anything you would do at a normal festival, but with kids just kind of mixed in, like totally normal. Like no one looked twice at it. Kids were having a good time. They were in their little festival outfits, and honestly, it was so cool and kind of made you rethink how we incorporate kids into our culture and life in America. I think like a lot of stuff in America, it's centered around kids, and adults do what's acceptable for the kids. But you come here and kids are just really brought into the adult life, and it's just kind of accepted. That's how you go through life. It's cool. Different culture.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool. It was like no cash or cards. Like you bought all these tokens up at, like, to begin with, at like this like locker thing, and it was like 45 euros for like 12 tokens or something like that. And then like you'd go to to get a bottle of water, and it was 2.5 tokens or something. So it was it was cool. So that was like very easy, like transactional stuff. And they had pretty decent food there. They also had a lot of different stages, which is pretty cool because like there's some pretty like busy areas, but you could definitely like go off and get to a quieter area. And there was also like smaller stages and stuff like that. There's like a few rides. Oh, and the one thing that was really good. So they had Oatly. I don't know if they have it in the US yet, but Oatly has like soft serve ice cream. But they had Oatly and Malibu alcohol. And I don't really do that type of alcohol all that much anymore, but it was like really good. And it was only like 0.5% alcohol or something like that. But it was like Oatly with Malibu and like coconut shavings. And that was like one of the cheaper.
Yeah, it was only half a token. That was actually the cheapest thing you could buy.
Yeah.
So by the end, when we were trying to get rid of our tokens and didn't have enough for water, but we had like 3 tokens to get 3 Oatlys, that's what we hit up. So cool. In true fashion for us, we don't really talk about the festival, but more about the food. In my opinion, the food was like fine. It's like festival food. It didn't excite me too much, but the whole vibe was really cool. Really fun performances and just fun to be immersed.
Yeah.
Kind of that Dutch festival culture for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And I think it was pretty well organized too.
Yeah, crazy well organized.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different experience if it wasn't so if it was very organized. There's just like lockers and there's stuff to do for everybody, and it's not just like you go. I feel like a lot of like festivals in the US, it's like you're drinking, eating, or standing and listening, and that's not really the case. Like you could like just like get food and go chill on some chairs and like just like hang out by the water, or like, you know, I don't know. There's just a lot, like go for a Ferris wheel ride. So it was pretty cool that there was just like a lot of stuff to like we were like, oh man, what are we gonna do until like Jason Derulo comes on? It's like 5 hours from now, and it actually went by pretty quick because we like got dinner and we got food. We walked around at different stages and stuff like that. So
we didn't do the silent disco though. I was really wanting to do the silent disco, but we passed on that because John thought the headphones wouldn't be sanitized well, which in his defense didn't look like they were. But I've always wanted to do a silent disco, so I was kind of sad to miss that opportunity. But great time overall. Would I do it again? Maybe if there's a headliner that I loved. I'm definitely not a festival person, but it was really fun.
Yeah, we have the big music festival coming up in like a few weeks, Amsterdam Dance Event, which is just like 5 days of just nonstop music. It's like all over the city. It's sponsored by the city too, but it is like big name artists come here and do like insane shows. So yeah, that's coming up soon. I don't think I'm gonna go to that one actually.
Have you ever gone to that one?
No, but you have like they have like they have like stuff that you can see like I don't know like in public that you'll be like, oh, that's part of Amsterdam Dance Event. Like they have a parade, I'm pretty sure, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a vibe. Everything's just a vibe for me. But let's move on because I feel like we're gonna be talking about our next topic for a while. So we took off a week and did some traveling. We went to Montenegro. So those of you who are not familiar, because every time I told any family member I was going to Montenegro, they're like, that's so cool. Where is that? So it is in the Balkans, and it's like in between Croatia, Serbia, Albania. So kind of right on that definitely right on that Dalmatian coast. So it's getting a little bit more hype because it's becoming a little bit more up and coming and developed. Now that they're recovering a little economically from all the wars that have gone on in that region. And it's kind of becoming the new Croatia is what they're saying. So Croatia has a lot of buzz. A lot of hype around it because of its beautiful coastlines. And we actually had visited Croatia last summer. So we got to see Croatia and we got a feel for what that region was like. We both really had a good time in Croatia. And then to be honest, we were also kind of looking for a more affordable option to still get a little bit of summer sun in a pretty area. So we decided...
Didn't get that much summer sun.
No, we didn't. It was raining pretty much the whole time. But we decided to check out Montenegro. It was a little bit more of an off the beaten path kind of country for us. And we decided to spend a whole week there. And it's a very small country. So we were actually able to navigate through pretty much the entire country and see all of the main point of attractions, which was really cool, exhausting, but super cool to be able to do that in just 1 week. I feel like that's very hard to do. So we decided to go to Montenegro. You want to?
Yeah, so we'll talk about it. Yeah, so Montenegro, it's pretty cool. We did like some urban stuff. We did some like wildlife stuff. We did kind of like half and half. I think Montenegro, the thing that's just like so interesting is, like it's right next to Croatia, and we flew into Croatia, actually. We flew into Dubrovnik, and then we went into Montenegro. And I don't know, call me biased, but the first thing, when I notice when you go in a new place and you see like wild dogs and wild cats, you're like, oh boy, what am I getting myself into?
But that's so much of that region. And that
I know, and that's why I say it every time I go there. And so when I got there, I was just like, oh boy, we're waiting to go through customs.
Yeah, we flew into Croatia. So we flew into Dubrovnik because that was pretty much the easiest way to get into Montenegro. And then the Dubrovnik airport's like 10, 20 minutes to the Montenegrin border.
Yeah. So we went to Montenegro, but you can definitely see the difference between Croatia being in the EU and then Montenegro. But I think it's you kind of like, once you look into the history of it, you kind of understand it. Like it is like a very war torn like place, like you all the way back from like the Ottoman Turks. We saw a fort that was like for defending against the Ottoman Turks. They had Venetians there, Illyrians, they had all sorts of different people. Romans were there. So it's just been like an area of the world that's just kind of been at like the crossroads of many different cultures and like transit routes, and it's like kind of been just not only like kind of war torn, but also like this is where failed governments and corruption really like play a role. And so even now today, you can kind of see a little bit of that. It's like just rough around the edges. Like some places were really nice. Like Tivat was very, very nice. We saw the Russian yachts there. I mean, probably one of the largest. If it's not the largest, it's got to be the second largest. Look it up. It's called Black Pearl. It's 251 million euros. And that was there in the harbor, and it was insane. But like 10 miles away, you just see like wildcats, dirt roads, and plastic bottles, and like single-use plastic bags like everywhere. So it's like just such a drastic change. I think also, just for a little background, like Montenegro is trying to get into the EU. So they are trying to do things to like bolster their like ability to get selected to get into the EU. Like they take euros for the currency. They're building a highway, for like a major highway through the country, which is like one of the stipulations to get into the EU. Unfortunately, it's like over €1 billion highway built by a Chinese company that's like using like construction materials off of like essentially like national land. So they're using construction materials for like free. And like part of the deal, the Montenegrin like government was like, if they don't pay off this highway being built in a certain amount of time, they have the import export rights of the port of Bar, which is like, Bar is a town that's like a port town that's like one of the bigger ones in the country. So
the biggest one.
So just like a lot of that type of stuff like is still happening, and like not much like GDP growth or output, like not really much of an exporter. So then you kind of start thinking, and you know, in my head when I'm there, I'm like, okay, this is a beautiful place, but like, what can they actually add to the union, right? I mean, France has like Paris, and they're building Bugattis, and they have like incredible wines and skiing. And then you look at Montenegro and you're like, okay, now I get why some people in the UK feel like they should not be supporting other places in the EU and voted for Brexit. Now that failed and people are unhappy about it. But I think Montenegro, they are really trying, but there are just some areas. Like I thought that like a lot of places they like did like touristy stuff, but it just was like not there yet.
Yeah.
Like in like
I think
restaurants.
we found that a lot in a lot of places.
And like restaurants are like, oh, come to this restaurant. And it was just like type of places like you don't get greet, like Eastern Europe, typical, like no smile, no hello, like no welcome to have you. It's just like you have to ask, like flag someone down to put in your order, flag someone down to get your bill, flag someone to get a menu. Like so, the guy actually came to our table at one place and he was like, can I help you? I was like, can I get a menu? Like, I don't know. What am I supposed to just make stuff up? Like, so just stuff like that. It's just a little rough around the edges. Additionally, I don't think their infrastructure is ready for it. I thought that their roads are all pretty much single lane roads if you're not on a highway, and people get angry at traffic.
Yeah, it's rough, like, but their infrastructure is not built for tourists. What I would specify, because they're trying to get tour buses up these really small mountain roads. So insane. Montenegro actually translates to Black Mountain. So it's a very mountainous country. You basically come right off the coastline and go straight up into mountains, and then it's mountains throughout the entire country. So any like mountainous region, you're going to have small roads anyway, because you're building roads into mountains. But on top of these small roads, they're trying to bring tour buses up these small roads to get to these tourist attractions. But they're single lane roads, and it's horrible. So you're having to, I mean, thank God I didn't drive. Big shout out to John for staying behind the wheel the entire time, because I would have not made it, guys. That would have been the end of me.
But we were like coming down from this like Lovchen National Park, which was really cool because they had like a really cool, like real Eastern European like national monument up there. And we're coming down, and like a couple of times like buses were coming up and they don't want to back up. So like, and there's like 5 cars behind me. So it's like all 5 of us have to like back up the mountain as we're coming down it to like find a spot where like we can have a bus pass us. And meanwhile, the guy, when I'm backing up, he's like, you need to go faster. We're on a time limit. We need to go faster. I'm like, dude, I am not going faster going backwards up a single lane road on a mountain. Like, and I get like you're the tours and all that stuff, but like when you go to France and you go to Val Thorens and you go up in the Alps, they also bring tour buses, but there's ample space for a tour bus to go up and down the road while also having another vehicle on the other side of the road. So just stuff like that, I just don't think they're ready for. And like, they're just like they're not, no one, everybody was like, it's the thing that's really funny about this is that we did a lot of research actually for this trip on YouTube. Everybody's like, everybody's so nice and the food is so great. And, oh, this place is amazing. And I think that was really good. But I do want to like preface that like it wasn't all great like it was on the YouTube videos.
I did think though the hospitality. So every place we stayed in 4 different hotels. Every single place we stayed, everyone was so gracious and generous.
They were.
It was like over the top hospitality, which I think speaks a lot to their culture. And it sounds like we were in a national park where there's a big Lake Skadar, and the tour guide was actually talking about how Montenegrins, they pride themselves on hospitality, and basically if someone comes into your home, like you oversupply food and alcohol, and that's how you welcome them, and you just really make sure they're comfortable and give them everything they need. So it's already kind of built, kind of think of it like Southern hospitality is how I viewed it, being someone from the South in the US. But you did really feel that everyone like went out of their way. And even if they didn't speak great English, they made such an effort to try to communicate with you and make sure you're comfortable and have everything you need.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think maybe where we stayed at hotels, restaurants were a little bit different.
I was just referencing hotels. Restaurants were hit or miss, but basically, so we did a lot of different regions in Montenegro. So we started in Dubrovnik in Croatia, drove over the border, and then we went to Kotor. So that's one of the more popular, largish cities.
Yeah.
That is really well known for their old city. So they still have like a fortress. So it's similar to Dubrovnik in the sense, if anyone has ever watched Game of Thrones, I think Game of Thrones was shot in Dubrovnik, but it's like that castled in old city. So everything's like very preserved. It's really cool to walk in one of these old cities. If you've never done it, highly recommend it because it's just a cool experience.
Yeah, it's just like alleyways in between buildings that have been there for like hundreds of years. Like, yeah, the old town was started like the earliest evidence of it being built was in like the 800s.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like Kotor, to be honest. If you do go to Montenegro, I would highly recommend Kotor. The old city, don't necessarily stay in the old city just because you can't drive in there. So if you have any luggage with you, you're walking it. That's just not fun.
Yeah.
But I thought Kotor was really cute. You're going to see a little bit more nicer restaurants in it. You could tell it's like starting to pick up and be designed more for tourists. It has a lot of cruise ships that port there and a lot of tour buses that come in too. So I read somewhere to not actually go during the day to Kotor. Save it for early morning or later in the night when all the cruise ships are out of there, which I definitely agree with. And we didn't even go during high season.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like trying to get out of there one day was like, I'm looking at the map now, like they have all these tour buses, all these cruise ships, and like there's just people walking everywhere and cars still being trying to be driven and like motorcycles cutting through traffic. And I'm just like, and there's like 2-lane traffic, like 1 lane on each side. And I'm just like, these are the things where I'm like, yeah, it's like challenging, right? You need these people to grow the economy, but like the infrastructure here is not yet set up for this amount of people to come in and spend money. And so it was super interesting.
You're not going to see any high-end hotels or anything like that. It's going to be kind of simple. My favorite part though of Kotor was they had a couple different pizza places where you get huge slices of pizza. You buy it by the slice. You can go into the restaurant and get a full pizza, but you buy it by the slice. It's like
€3.
Yeah, €3 a slice. Doesn't matter what the slice is. So if you want plain cheese, it's €3. If you want it loaded with all the meat and veggies in the world, still €3, which is kind of cool. But the way they give it to you, they kind of like give it to you with a plate that's like sort of in a burrito wrap. And you just see everybody walking down around the old city, chomping on pizza. So we were there 2 nights and split up each pizza. There's 2 pizza places. So we tried one of each. And it was just fun. Like, who doesn't like pizza, especially a huge slice of pizza in a cool old city?
And they have a lot of good gelato there too.
Yeah.
And at night, like, just really good atmosphere. There's like alleyways and like little squares in the old town that have like people just like having drinks and like restaurants and live music. Like, it was pretty cool. Like, I thought there was like a nightlife there, you know, like so I thought Kotor was pretty cool. And that was like our first stay. Also, the drive into Kotor was like pretty cool.
It was beautiful. The Bay of Kotor, I think is what it's called. It's all along the coastline. It is absolutely stunning.
Yeah. And it's funny because like there's all these like land masses, and on the other side is Tavat.
So I don't really know much about Tavat. We stumbled upon Tavat by accident. We were just looking. So because Montenegro is on the coast, we really like seafood. So we were trying to seek out seafood for dinner. And we both happened to find the same place on Google. And we're like, let's go check it out. And it ended up being right next to Tavat. I don't know if it's technically in Tavat.
No, it was.
Oh, well, it was.
Yeah.
So we were in like a little bit of the less developed part of Tavat, and then decided to walk, which seemed kind of like a boardwalk. We're like, let's just go walk after dinner. And we walk into like just pure luxury. Like, I think it shocked both.
Yeah, I was like, what is this place?
There's nothing we were expecting in the slightest bit. It was really crazy. It was just like obviously super new. You see so many Russian tourists in Montenegro, and I feel like there's been Russian tourists just in the past. Like, that's kind of the history of the country. It's close by. They let them in the country. And obviously you can tell there's a lot of Russian money invested in that. But there's beautiful hotels, fine shopping, fine dining. It was honestly really beautiful, and I think it just caught us so off guard. We were just like in total shock.
Yeah. And I think also like we went to one place before that, or maybe it was after that, but Storia di Pietra Winery is like this like brand new, like gorgeous winery on this like top of this like mountain, and like really nice like place. But it's also, again, like up like a single lane road, dirt and like gravel, and then you end up at this like massive like brand new structure with like a wedding hall. But you can see like people from Tavat would clearly love to have like an event there, and that's probably why they built it. So that was cool. So like going from Kotor to Tavat, there's also another place called Lovchin National Park, which there's like a memorial up there for this guy named Niegos. It's like Niegos Mausoleum, and he was like a spiritual and military leader that like led the country back, and like his family for like hundreds of years have led the country through like victory through some of these battles and stuff. So he was there, but it was really cool, like very like brute, like marble granite statues and stuff like that. But then on the other side, like heading towards, like if you look at it on the map, it's like a big weird like landmass, and like it's like Kotor, water, big landmass of a mountain, and then on the other side is Tavat. And so on Tavat, they have an airport there. We could have flown in there, but we would have had to stop in Belgrade, Serbia, and it was more expensive, and I didn't really want to do that. So we didn't, and so we just walked through, and we stopped at this one place in Tavat with the restaurant. It was called Divino, and it was like awesome sunset. And it had stuffed squid, which was amazing. And then we just walked around, and like the harbor is insane there. Like it's got to be like billions of dollars of boats in there. Like we're not talking like small, like we're talking like these things are like 300 feet long, like big things you see. The thing I was really surprised about too is that like it was very modern. It was new. The airport's like 5 minutes away, and like the airport parking lot to get in is like dirt. It's like construction. It's like
pretty.
I was like,
they're not developed.
I was like,
got a long way to go.
I was like, could you imagine someone that has like a nice yacht? They want to park it here, and they like try to fly their jet in, and it's just like basically like landing in like dirt. You're like, what is this place? So I think give it some time and it will definitely develop. So that was pretty cool. Then we went into a new area. The place, it's a lake called. Oh, we went to Budva too, which is another town.
Neither of us liked it. We stopped there overnight. It's supposed to be the big party town. And everything I saw, like just mentioned, stopping in Budva. I was absolutely disappointed.
Yeah, don't go there.
I can honestly say I wouldn't return there. They have an old city like they do in Kotor, but it is so much less and so disappointing compared to Kotor. And honestly, it's so much more expensive because that's where the party scene is.
Yeah.
So if you like to party, go there. Beyond that, skip it. Not worth it.
That was one of the places where I was like, everybody on YouTube is like, go to Budva. It's so cute. It's awesome. And I just went through and I was like, at least in like Kotor's old town, you had like, everybody was pretty joyous and like having like beers and having a good time. Like everybody just like didn't look happy. It was wildcats. It's kind of dirty and like,
yeah, it was grimy. I mean, it's on the coast, so I'm pretty sure you have pretty beaches. We actually didn't do so much on the beach because we were there. We got there, I guess, the worst week weather-wise possible. Like a cold front came in and it was raining the whole time. So unfortunately, no beach for us. But yeah, skip Budva. Don't go to that one. Kotor, absolutely. Budva, no, not for us.
And so then we continued down the coast and it was a little rough weather. And so the water is really wild. But there's this place called like Sveti Stefan, which is like a little island like off the coast. And I think it's all now private citizens, but you can't actually get on the island unless you like live there. But there is like a little jetty out to it. But it's supposed to be really nice for like for the beach and stuff like that. So we just kind of went around there and then we made our way to Lake Skadar and that was pretty cool. The drive to Lake Skadar was pretty cool. It was a bit long.
No, it's only an hour.
I think it was a couple of hours.
No, that was going up. We went way up into the mountains after Lake Skadar. Lake Skadar was just an hour, so you can easily do a day trip to there. And that's actually what I would recommend. There's not much beyond the lake. It's also wine country, so there's some vineyards and wineries.
Yeah.
But it's not probably what you're picturing in your head. They're a lot smaller. Cute family-owned local wines. Good time, but not like going out to California and going into the vineyards there. No, nothing like that whatsoever. But if you like wine, very affordable, cheap wine to drink in a vineyard, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we went to one called Monte Grande. It was like I was like shocked. Like I was like, okay, the Google reviews look really nice. Like let's just go check it out. If it sucks, this would be the fourth one that sucks. So
this is after we had tried to go to other ones.
Yeah.
Trying to find them on Google Maps, going to like abandoned family homes who were like, what? And turning around and aborting our mission.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. So we go to this place and like immediately we pull in. Guy was super nice, like tells us where to park. We like get out of the car. Lady like greets us, shakes our hand. We're like, oh, wow, that's pretty. Like pull up. There's like, it's like really nice vineyards. Like tables are set up and stuff. Like a tour bus of like 50 Germans are just like getting hammered on wine there. But they actually had really good wine and it was like 35 a person. It was like 3 pretty full pours and a lot of charcuterie. Like it's like a lot of food. I left that place full and it was only 35 euros. I was like very pleased. And they were like, is everything right? Okay with the wine? I was like, yeah, we just like don't drink that often, like in this much. But it was really good wines and they showed us like the facilities and stuff like that. So it was really nice. That one was like really, really like pretty legit. I thought that one was pretty good.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's also really close to the capital in the airport, Podgorica. So if you end up flying into Podgorica or being anywhere near there, I would definitely recommend checking out that winery.
Yeah.
But our purpose of going to that region was to visit Lake Skadar. It's supposed to be a huge tourist attraction. It's the largest lake, I think, in Europe.
I thought it was like the second largest lake in Europe or something like that. I don't know. But it's huge. It is huge.
That goes through 2 countries. So half of it's in Montenegro, half of it's in Albania.
Yeah,
Albania.
it's Albania.
And it is really pretty. It's a national park, so it's like very preserved, not much in it. You're not seeing like water sports. It's no Lake Como or anything like that. And there's not that much to do there. So I was it was beautiful.
Apparently it's known for like a lot of the
Bird watching.
And we did see a couple of kingfishers, which are like super bright blue birds, which was like pretty cool. But we were kind of, after like an hour, we were kind of just like...
It was pretty.
What?
You go out on a boat with a tour group, and then there's like tons of monasteries in Montenegro in general. So they take you out to this like island with a monastery. You go check it out and then get back in the boat. You go through all these lily pads, which is super cool, very picturesque.
Yeah.
We had a good time. They gave you wine. They gave you, which kind of was like a piece of fried dough.
Yeah.
Their variation of a piece of fried dough. That was really good. We ate a lot of those, but fried dough is usually always really good. And then that was kind of it. That was the extent. There's also some hiking you could do around there, and then you can rent like kayaks and stuff to take out on the lake yourself. But beyond that, there's not that much. Like, honestly, I wouldn't go out of your way to go there. If I have to be honest, it looked beautiful on Instagram. It makes your life look really cool, but it just really goes to show you that Instagram is 100% a highlight reel, because we spent 2 days there and only 3 hours in the lake. So that was my perception of it and how I feel. But one cool thing we did do in Lake Skadar, which I don't regret, is we had our first glamping experience. So we stayed in a tent, in like a glorified tent with like a little outhouse that had a beautiful shower, toilet, shower and toilet. And then like fully furnished tent with a full-on mattress, full-on bed. And I actually really enjoyed that. It was all out in nature. It was really, really fun. It kind of made get your feet a little bit dirty and be a little bit more outdoorsy, which is not always on brand for me, but I enjoyed it. What did you think of glamping?
It was good. It was just a little cold and wet. So like the rain was there and it was like loud at night because it was like raining.
It's so therapeutic. I love the rain. And then I love that shower. It was semi outdoors. So you had warm water, they had heated water, and like a little bit cold outdoors, rainy outdoors, and then in a shower. That was amazing. I love that. Could have been in that shower all day. And they had a little pool, which was really nice. There's only like 4 other tents on the site. And then they prepared all the food in-house. So it was just like fresh, a lot of food fresh from their garden. Very farm to table-y, and very like homey and great hospitality. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really good. Unfortunately, they had a cat around and I'm allergic to cats, and then I ended up getting sick and still am kind of sick, but it was pretty cool. Like they did a good job for like glamping. I thought it was done very well. So.
Yeah, total nice experience.
And I think similar to other things in Montenegro, like if it's a decent business or run really well or whatever, like chances are they aren't from Montenegro, which was the case for a lot of places, or they had a background in something like outside of Montenegro and then came back.
But they're growing. They're getting the hang of it.
Yeah.
And then our final stop in Montenegro, which is my favorite part, and I know is your favorite park too. Favorite part, no, ironically, is a park, Dormitor National Park. So it's way up north. It was like another 2.5, 3 hour drive to get there. But just very beautiful mountain region. Some of the highlights we saw, they had Black Lake, which is just a big lake that has like a black tint to it. There's so much hiking there. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do a lot of hiking just because we didn't have the time and the weather wasn't very cooperative for us. And then they have a small little town called Zablik.
I think it's pronounced Zabeljak.
Zablik.
But that was like
It was very
like,
cute,
like a mountain town type of feel. It's so sad though, because like I don't know if they have a lot of access to capital or it's corruption or just not good plans, but there are like you could tell there were like nice hotels being built or were built, and they've just crumbled, like just like rebar sticking out of the top, like parking lots not done, like they're just abandoned construction projects. And I'm like, this is like one place we went by, I was like, this is a nice place. Like it wouldn't take all that much for a developer to just come by and just like clean it up and like get it going. And like a lot of places were like that, but I don't think they get a lot of access to capital to like get that opportunity. And so they end up with like these failed construction projects and just like half built buildings or torn, like run down buildings. And some of that was in this like area. But that was like the main point for the Dormitor National Park. And then around that, there's just like a lot of like pretty like amazing mountains and trails and hiking stuff. And like just like mountain passes that we went to a couple of them that were really cool. And we like stayed at this like little A-frame place that was really cool in this like little like canyon valley type area. And man, like we went and it was raining, but then like the next day in the morning, it was like all like clear sky, and it was just like very picturesque, like really nice area.
It was beautiful. If we talked about it a lot, if we were to go back to Montenegro, we would probably just go straight back to this region. It was just very calm and peaceful, very preserved and kind of untouched, just like beautiful evergreen forest trees, whatever, the Christmas trees, whatever they're called, that type of vibe.
There really wasn't that many people there either.
Yeah,
like,
and it might have been we went on a shoulder season, so we were there in September, so it could have easily been the season, but it's also just not a very like people just don't really go to Montenegro yet. So
yeah, so it was like pretty cool, like, but it was like ridiculous. Like you see some of these like expedition campers from Germany, like there's a lot of Germans there, and like we're not talking like an RV, like that's like a US thing. We're talking about like military grade Mercedes-Benz Unimog converted into a camper trying to go up these like 1-lane roads. And like it's so funny because we were going through this one pass called like Sedlo Pass, and one of those Mercedes-Benz things was just like parked out in the middle of nowhere, just camping there because like one, it could go over the terrain, and two, it was like just why not post up there.
Yeah.
So it was really cool, very picturesque, a lot of like good views there. So yeah, I really liked it. And on the way to Dormitor, which was really cool, outside of Podgorica, it was like ancient Roman city there, and it wasn't just like a couple of ruins and stuff like that. It was like pretty legit. Like I've seen Roman ruins in like the UK and in Cyprus and in like Croatia and other places. This was definitely like probably, other than Cyprus, probably one of the bigger settlements or cities that I've seen. It's called Doclea, Doclea, and it was like a pretty legit like inhabited place back in the day. But even now, the ruins are there, and you can see the foundations of the buildings. You can actually see like facades of stores with like writing chiseled into the granite and marble, and like structures there with statues and the big columns and pillars. It was really cool.
Yeah, overall Montenegro is pretty cool. Is it my absolute favorite? No. Was it a good experience? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it was really good. Definitely a change in climate. It was like on Monday we were in this area called like Lustica Bay, and we were like by the beach, and it was like 80. And then when we went to Dormitor at night, it was like 34 degrees.
But I think that was also a really cold week. Obviously, go up in the mountains, it gets colder, but I think we just also happened to be there on a very cold week.
Yeah.
But yeah, Montenegro is cool. If I have to be honest, I wouldn't travel from outside of the EU to go to Montenegro unless you're doing like a bunch of other places and doing like a couple weeks. in Europe. But yeah, fun to explore.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. It's good to see. I mean, like, not every place can be like a beautiful, whatever. This was a mix of things, and good to try like new food. We tried like these things called bureks. They're like primarily out of Serbia, but it's like phyllo dough type thing filled with like feta cheese, which was really good. I thought that was like super tasty. The seafood was pretty good. The pizza and the gelato, really tasty. Good wine, actually.
Yeah, they're known for their wine. I think if Montenegro continues in this upwards projection over the next like 20 years, there has a lot of potential to be somewhere really cool. And actually the next Croatia. On our way back, we actually had to stop or go back through Dubrovnik in Croatia. So we stopped at a little town right near the airport.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And it was so different. It was just like you felt
like you're back in the EU.
How they developed to attract tourists. Like it felt like a nice tourist destination. You're right on the coast. We had lunch, eating lunch right on the water, which was beautiful.
Yeah, but, so you cross over the border and you go into a town called Kavtat, and it is like immediately you're like, okay, you can feel the difference. Like no trash anywhere on the sidewalks, like very clean, nice restaurants, good harbor. Like the water in the Adriatic Sea was just like crystal clear, but like very dark blue at the same time. And you can just see all these fish. Like,
yeah,
it was like cool. A really cool town. So that was really nice. A good way to kind of end it. And we got lunch there and then went to the airport.
Okay, I'm totally not going to lie. I hope you guys are still with us because I'm getting bored talking about this episode. So I hope you guys are finding this interesting. You're losing me here. So we're going to have to move on to this Dutch phrase word of the week. I forgot about this part because clearly I did not prepare for this. So I'm going to go ahead and say mine. It comes with a funny story though. So mine is Mirval, which is Miss. So like Miss Gabriella. Mirval. Which I know whenever you go to the doctor, they call you like Miss your last name. So Mirval Drive for me. And I was running a few weeks ago and I had like ran across the street when the light was green, but no cars were coming. And then I got stopped because there were cars coming the other way. So I got stuck on the median and I was waiting there. And a cop pulls up and I'm like, oh man. And he rolls down his window and he's like, Mirval. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And then he just drove off and I kept running. But it was just a funny little exchange. Like it was harmless.
You broke the law.
I broke the law, but also jaywalking is not illegal here. So I didn't break the law. I don't know. Maybe he's just saying a friendly hello. Cops are very nice here and they're more like friends and family than enemies. What's yours?
So they don't really have this word in a couple languages over here in Europe have it. And it's like kind of the word for like you guys. Like in Spain, they have it instead of like estas, it's like estais. But over here, they have a word for that. And it's kind of interesting because grammatically, it's just different than what you have in the English language. But it's like essentially when you're saying like, hey, you, but like you as in like a plural group of people. And so you'll hear it every once in a while when you hear people talking to you, they'll say Yuli. And it's spelled Jullie, but it's kind of like, hey, you guys. Like when someone says, hey, Yuli, like that means like more than just, it's like y'all. It's in Spanish, it's like the vosotros form of speaking.
Nice. I remember that word from my Dutch class.
Nice.
Never knew how to use it, but now I do.
Okay.
All right. So we are going to wrap this episode up.
We didn't talk about the snacks. What was your snack in Montenegro that you liked the most?
I don't know.
You had a ton of wafers.
Okay, that is not specific to Montenegro. If you want to continue, this podcast has been quite long. If you need to add something to it, you can, but I would not like to.
So there's one snack that's pretty good over here that they don't really have in the US, and it's kind of interesting. So like they have like the Cheetos Puffs in the US that are like cheese flavored, obviously. But over here they have like those same things, but they're peanut butter and peanut flavored, and they're really good. And I know they're probably not any healthier, but they just feel healthier because you don't have like cheese residue on your fingers afterwards. Yeah. So they're really good. But I had those when I was in Montenegro. That's very tasty.
Yeah, I know there's quite a few other countries that make very similar snacks to that. Not the US, but plenty of other places. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to wrap this up right here. As always, reach out to us with any questions if you want to know more about our Montenegro trip or you want our itinerary, anything like that. You can hit us up on Instagram at a couple of expats _podcasts, or through our YouTube channel. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time.
Bye.